and we're going to welcome Toni Gattone to Alaska via cyberspace here, and we'll have to get you a real trip up here when things settle down a little bit. So Toni is an adaptive gardening expert, and I love this one, resilience change agent. Wow, agent. Just, yeah. I'd like to be an agent. She has a really fantastic book, which is The Lifelong Gardener, Garden with Ease and Joy at Any Age. And she also has a blog and a YouTube, so you can give out her, well, it's tonigattone.com, right?
Right.
Okay, easy to find and lots of information there. And, you know, I sat in on Toni's talk that she gave down in Seattle at the Northwest Flower and Garden Festival. And I think a lot of people thought it was just for older people, of which I am one. And it really is not. It's not limited to that. And you and I have talked a little bit about this, kind of accepting that you are aging and maybe not able to do some things. But I mean, you've got so much practical advice for anybody in the book. But so the big thing is kind of acceptance, I think, of saying, well, I'm, you know, my back hurts. I can't do this. I shouldn't be climbing that step ladder anymore, that kind of thing. And then, of course, this acceptance kind of translates into what's going on right now. We can't really control it. We have to accept things as they are for now.
It's true. It's true. I mean, I've been saying this for a couple of years, and now more than ever, we can't control what's going on out there, but we can control what's going on in our homes and in our gardens. And that's really that's where the resilience comes in, because, you know, we're living in a very different world. And so we just have to get to that place of saying, okay, can't do anything about this one either. Chalk another one up, but what can I do? And turning it in from the problems into the joy of finding another way to get things done. Yeah.
Yeah. And where is a good, safe place to be right now while you're sheltering at home?
In the garden. In the garden.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't been out I haven't even driven my car in more than a week, maybe 10 days, but I'm working in the garden every day. And the thing I love about gardening, and I know it's the reason why we're all so compelled with this hobby of ours and our businesses, is that when you're out in the garden, you really can't think about anything else, that particular plant and what's going on with that plant and what can you do to make it healthy. That's it. So it's a great way to, you know, mentally shift gears as an antidote to the news and as a way of feeding your soul.
Yeah, that's for sure. And, you know, for us here in Alaska, if the boats stop coming, the planes stop coming, we need to be able to grow our own food, which it seems odd to think about it today. I'm looking out the window here at this beautiful snow all over my apple tree. I can't really get out in the garden right now to do much, but I have a greenhouse, so I'm starting lots of seeds. There is a local push for the master gardeners to have people start seedlings that they can give away to people later on, and kind of like the old victory garden thing. So, I mean, it's okay to plant flowers, and I plant a lot of flowers, but we do need to learn how to grow food. And this is really a great opportunity for that.
Well, and I think the other opportunity that you have while you're hunkering down is to plan your garden and to plan how you can adapt it. So that when you're ready to get out there and do your planting, you know, what can you do? Do you have raised beds? Can they be elevated up so that they're waist high? So if you do have a bad back, you'll still be able to work on those. Or, you know, maybe you've got containers, or maybe you can, you know, take the time to look around and say, what can I do from a vertical gardening opportunity? What changes can I make this spring that'll help me for the long term?
Yeah, and not only do those create ease in the garden, but they're very practical things for us. We have a pretty short season. You know,
Sure.
it's basically June, July, and August. We get a little bit of May. Last year we had a fantastic May and a bit of September, but one never knows. So the containers are great, movable. You can change them up, change your mind, and just so people are clear. And we do raised beds, and a raised bed would be like a 2 by 12 box that's sitting on the ground. And then, and you call it the same thing. An elevated bed is something up on legs like a table. And if you
Right.
were in a wheelchair, for instance, you could wheel right up to it and garden.
Exactly.
It helps us all, and it just, for us, those beds dry out sooner, they warm up sooner. So that's definitely an Alaskan thing. And I've
Yeah.
been kind of talking to people about more vertical gardens too. There's so many opportunities with that. There's so many great vines, and you know, another thing you can kind of slip in there is foodscaping, of
Huh?
mixing your ornamentals with edibles too, which is kind of a new thing.
Sure.
It's an old new thing.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's like my husband and I bought our first raised bed, and it was on the ground, and we got into the square foot gardening, and it was great until my back went out, and he needed a knee replacement. And all we could do is walk by and say, I hope you guys are happy because we can't get down there. So once we were both healed, it was a laborious task, but we took all the soil out and raised it up, replanted everything, and now we've got 2 raised beds, both 4 by 4, which is great.
Yeah. And you mentioned square foot gardening, which I love. It's so efficient and neat and looks great, and just makes total sense. You don't really waste seeds, time, money, or effort. Everything's planned so nicely. It just makes total sense.
It certainly does. It's, yeah. You know, here's to Mel Bartholomew.
Yeah, toast him. And you know, I was going to ask you what inspired your book, but I think you just told us. It was those kind of downtimes for you guys that you realized that there were some things you couldn't do.
Well, I had gone through the Master Gardener program here in Marin County, and I just desperately wanted to get out and start applying all the research-based information that I learned. And my back was out, and I kept looking out at my roses saying, oh my gosh, they really need to be deadheaded and pruned. And the word adapt came into my mind. And I remembered that there was an article I had read about adaptive gardening. So I spent the rest of the time recuperating with my laptop on my stomach, laying down, and researched this subject. And I really felt this was going to be my opportunity to give back. I initially thought it was going to just be for master gardeners. And I went to them and I asked them, you know, do you mind if I start doing this as a seminar, a public seminar? And they said, no, go for it. And then it just kind of went from there.
Yeah,
Garden clubs found out about it. You know, I just started speaking here and there. And then my publisher approached me and asked me if I wanted to write a book on the seminar. And I was like, I mean, you know me, Patrick, I'm Italian, so I tend to be emotional. And, you know, I'm on the phone with her and I'm fighting back tears because I realized that, oh my God, you know, I can't turn down this opportunity, but I have no clue how to write a book. So I spent a good hour and a half crying after that, saying, you know, I'm doing something right. Somebody thinks I'm doing something right. So I just said, okay, I'm going to figure out how to do this. And I did.
Fantastic. It was meant to be, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and the book is so easy to go through. I mean, you can pick it up and really open it anywhere, and there's something valuable. You've got references to some particular gardeners that you mentioned. And kind of your big titles here, You and Your Body, which is an important thing to know about. Like I say, that's that acceptance for me. I have had a little bit of a back surgery and a hip surgery, and I'm still able to do everything pretty well. I can throw a bag of soil over my shoulder and carry it, but there will come a day.
Okay, of course.
I do that. So need to, again, that acceptance and a little dose of reality there. one of my favorite sections of the book too, and this is for anybody, are the tools. And you are kind of a tool gal too.
Yeah, I am.
We talked a little bit about some of the favorite tools, and that's a great section of the book right there. So that's
it's
chapter.
You know, I did that for 30 years. I had my own rep company. Mm-hmm. So that was our job it was my job to go to the wholesale shows, garden shows, and find great tools and manufacturers to work with. And then I would come back and train my reps on those tools. So, you know, we were covering all of California and at one point the entire West Coast, and selling great tools. And so I really got an idea of what works, especially if you have decreased muscle strength in your hands or the dreaded arthritis. There's just some tools that are harder on the hand to use. So yeah, it was a lot of fun putting that together.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite sections of the book, and a couple things that stand out for me. And you've got some of my favorites in there too. We have some companies that we see at these festivals and symposiums and things we go to, like Corona Tools, great stuff. Yeah. Cobra Head, you specifically have those guys in there. I like our friends at Dram Tools. Looking at more things to make life easier and gardening easier. Yeah. But one of the best ones is the kneeler.
The reversible kneeler bench. I mean, I just recommend this to every gardener because, you know, the joy of it is that it's, you know, you can use it as a kneeler, and then as you turn it upside down, it becomes a seat. And it just makes all the sense in the world. I mean, you remember that old commercial that was on TV, I got down and now I can't get up?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we all go through sooner or later, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, that's one of them. But I also, you know, I love the expandable rake.
Oh, yeah.
So it compresses down, so it's nice and, you know, it compresses so that you can hang it up and it's not on the floor of your garage or tool shed to hurt yourself. But also that the tines expand from 7 inches to 21 inches. So you can use this for most gardening chores where you need a rake. And I really like that one. That's a good one.
That is good. I'm looking at that one right now. And also the extension tool, I call it a grabber.
It's a grabber,
so you can reach, I understand maybe Ben Franklin invented a grabber like that to reach cans off a top shelf or items in a store, but it's so handy in the yard.
Oh yeah. And it's like another tool that I really enjoy using is from the Wildflower seed company. And they're the ones, the one that works for me is 24 inches long, and it's with a pruner so that I can reach to the top of my roses without having to get on a ladder.
Yeah.
And it's a cut and hold. So you cut it, and instead of it just falling down, in which you have to bend down to pick it up, it holds onto it, and then you can just put it in the debris can.
Yeah. That's great. Which is pictured in the book too, your big boss bag.
Yeah.
Foldable bag with the yellow thing.
The yellow.
The yellow thing's like a big giant dustpan almost type.
It is. It really is. And we've never come up with any other name for it besides the yellow thing, you know?
Yeah. So we'll have to have folks definitely pick up your book. And, you know, I guess it's okay to mention this because it's public. Your notes from your talk are on the Northwest Flower and Garden Festival website. Speaker notes there. People want to just take a quick glance at that. You can easily find those. If you have trouble with that, folks at home, send me an email at the Botanical Garden and I'll hook you up with that if that's okay. They're already out there. So, okay. Sure. I think that would be a good introduction to Toni Gattone. So.
Well, and also, you know, I wanted to mention to your listeners, you know, while my name is quite musical, not everybody spells it correctly. You'll need that in order to get to the website. So it's Toni, and the last name is G as in George, ATT as in TomTom, ONE.com.
Okay, easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, again, like when I sat in on the talk, uh, there were people of a certain age there, but that's who goes to that show
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
But I think, and I was one too that said this is for everybody, really.
It
It's
is.
just smart gardening. Like you say, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, I mean, people of all ages have physical issues that they're dealing with. Not to mention, if you're in a wheelchair or have to use a walker, you might be tempted to think that I can't garden anymore. But that was the joy from the book. I originally wrote it for myself and for other seniors that I know, since here in Marin, most of the master gardeners in Marin are, 60 and older. But, it's really for anybody who loves to garden. And even if you're a new gardener and you want to start, why not start with it in a smart way? With those elevated beds, with vertical gardening opportunities, so that you don't have to redo it later.
Yeah.
To me, that makes all the sense in the world.
No, definitely this. For us too, and even though we have this snow now, sun's coming out, it's getting a little brighter, and it's around 32, so it's not that cold, and it's going to melt. But it's a good time to actually get out in your yard and shuffle around and find that path of least resistance. Make your paths like where they're going to be, and kind of edge out your garden. You can like stomp the ground and say, oh, I'm going to expand this garden. Like when I first had my garden by our back fence, the cable guys came, and they have that trenching tool, and they dug up about a foot away from the fence. So I dug that out carefully, not cutting the wire, and took the sod out and planted a little garden along the fence, like 12 inches out. A couple years later, bit by bit, it's out to about 8 feet now, and I've got lilacs there that are giant. So it keeps expanding, less lawn, more garden. but you can kind of stomp around in the snow and dream a little bit, and you can make labels right now. And actually Monday I have I call it Lunch and Learn. It's another one of these type of affairs on Zoom on how to read a seed packet. So if you can get to the store or mail order something, you can do so much planning right now, and it's time for us to start almost everything.
Well, I think another thing that people can do while they're home is, clean out your garage.
Yeah.
Go in there and take a look at those tools. And I mean, if you got rusty tools, as far as I'm concerned, get rid of them and get some new tools, and start off fresh. One of the tools that I love to recommend to people is the tool sharpener. And it's by a company called Ironwood. And it's on my online store on my website. But I really like it because when I became a master gardener, I wanted to get all the new tools and everything. And I bought the Felco sharpener, which is about 4 inches long. And I thought, I'm going to lose that. And I did. Whereas this one is about 8 inches long. And it's got a really good safety guard so that when you're holding your pruner in your hand and you're sharpening, you're not going to accidentally hurt yourself. So this would be a great time to go into your garage or your tool shed, take everything out, clean it out, and just keep the tools that are still working for your hand or your shoulder, and then sharpen them. And then you're ready. You're ready to rock and roll.
Oh, yeah. That's fun. All we can do right now. And funny you say that because I've been cleaning out my garage. So many Alaskans have a garage with no car in it because we have camping gear,
of course,
snow gear, skis, et cetera, et cetera. And if you're a gardener, it's even worse. So.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
Hey, Toni, I was going to ask you about your phrase, warm it up and switch it up.
Right.
Well,
it's the before and during. In other words, before you go out to garden, I really suggest that people take 5 minutes, 10 minutes to do some stretching, or be some, you know, some dancing, put on some of your favorite tunes and dance and get your body all warmed up. Or like I say, the stretching is good for you to be able, the main thing is that you want to get the blood moving before you actually go out to garden. And then in terms of switching it up, it's important that we don't do the same chore for a long period of time. For you, it might be shoveling snow. For us, it's raking up the leaves that fell in the last rainstorm. But to do that and limit it to maybe 20 minutes, and then switch it up and do another chore where you're using a different body part. And that's how you avoid creating pain when you're in the garden. Warming it up before you go and switching it up when you're out there. Yeah, yeah.
And that works very well for me because I don't know if you know this about me, I invented ADD, which we call ADHD now.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty hyper and out in the garden, and I'll be digging up a plant and thinking, oh, I need to move this, and I'll move it to another area, and then I'll see something in that area, and oh, now I got to go do this. So I eventually get things done, but and gardening, it really doesn't matter. You can switch it up and move around.
Well, what I try to do, because my husband has a bit of that as well, I try to have us work in a particular area together. Because then, you know, when he goes off, I'll say, honey, come on, we're working this area today.
Right.
And he'll go and empty the garbage, and I'm like, what are you doing? Focus.
Yeah, we guys need supervision now and then. So.
Yeah.
That's great. So I've been kind of working on a talk kind of related to yours, and I did it before I saw yours, so I'm not stealing any of your things, but I'll definitely add you to as a reference if I end up giving this at like nursing homes or retirement places. And one picture I found of a pathway was like different pieces of stone and all these spaces in between, and it just looked horrible to try and walk on if you have balance problems or vision problems. This thing looks scary. I would not want to take that path. So what are some of the traits that you would find in adaptive garden design? I mean, a safe pathway would be one for sure.
Right. Yeah, safe pathway. Your goal, of course, is always to eliminate tripping hazards.
Yes.
And, many of us started installing flagstone paths, and what we have created, with the drought is that all of the ground cover that we had in between has dried up. Yeah. So we've now got spaces that are, anywhere from 1 inch to 2 inches wide and same deep. And if, God forbid, I had to be in a walker or a wheelchair, it would be challenging at best.
Yeah.
So the recommendation would be to create a new path that's a solid surface, that's 3 to 4 feet wide. That would be the best way, so that you're eliminating tripping hazards. But also, one of the gardeners that I interviewed is my neighbor Joe around the corner. And when Joe was replacing all of his flagstone, he also wanted to make sure that there were no, what would be the word? Bumps that they would have to go up, so that everything is perfectly flat. He doesn't have a raised piece of stone anywhere in the front, in the driveway, and in the back of the house, because he was diligent to make sure that people with a wheelchair could get in and out easily without an issue. Yeah. The other thing is the permeable. Did people up in Alaska have the permeable driveways?
Not a huge thing, but let's explain what that is. I know what that is, but
yeah, a permeable driveway got really popular in the lower 48 a couple of years ago, in that it was a great way for water to, instead of running off a driveway, it would go into the water table. So they used these cement blocks that had spaces in between for the water to go through. Well, a lot of people were using decomposed granite in between those spaces. And the dirty little secret is that the decomposed granite blows away. So you never, ever, ever have a complete flat surface. And what Joe's solution was for that was he put in interlocking pavers. Yeah. And it made all the difference in the world. Yeah. A little bit bumpier, you know, for someone in a wheelchair, but still flat as a pancake.
Yeah.
For safety's sake. And that's, to me, you know, I say the word safety, and, you know, I just want to go back to where we are today, this hunkering down that you're going through.
Yeah.
We call it shelter in place.
Right.
I want to get back to the whole idea of growing your own food.
Yes.
Because, you know, it's not a good thing to do to be going out to the grocery store these days. And if people can start just doing, I mean, if it's salad greens in a sunny window, so they don't have to go and get lettuces. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
It's, you know, people want to call them victory gardens, but I don't know that it's a victory garden. I think it's a resilient garden.
I like that.
We're creating so that we can have our own, build in our own resilience. So we're not dependent on having to go to the grocery store if we don't have to.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make that note.
Yeah, those, the word adaptive and resilient are both very pertinent right now. Yeah. So
exactly. And, you know, a couple of weeks ago, I went down and pruned a rose bush for one of my neighbors because it was like, I don't know, 9 feet tall. It was a tree rose, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah.
I said, there's no way. So I had to get on a step stool, of course, to prune it down. And she called me the other day and she said, guess what? I said, what? She said, I've got buds on my rose bushes. And I said, hey, if we can all be as resilient as rose bushes, because I really cut that baby. I mean, I pruned her back.
Yeah.
She said, there's buds coming out her back. So I think that'll be a new blog. We got to be as resilient as our rose bushes.
I like that. Yeah. Well, you are somewhat vertically challenged.
Yes.
We have a picture of us standing side by side, and I look really tall.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
And I used to be 5'2", and I'm 5'0".
Oh, wow.
It's like, where did that go?
That's Mr. Gravity.
I guess so.
Hey, so back to the book for a sec. Yeah. Is it just for experienced gardeners, and is it just for older people, or what would
Well, okay, what I don't do in the book is I don't go into gardening 101. I just don't. Because again, my intent in the beginning was for seniors. And every adaptive gardening book that I bought and looked through before I started, I wanted to see what everybody else was doing so I could do something different. Mm-hmm. They gave some adaptive ideas and some adaptive tools, but then they went into how to garden.
Right.
And I just didn't feel that senior gardeners needed that. I wanted to stay focused on how to keep gardening, assuming that people already know how to garden. So for your listeners out there, if they're brand new to gardening, the book will help you to plan your garden and organize your garden, but it's not going to tell you what to plant, except it's easier rather than having all annuals if you go to perennials, because they're less work and you have to don't have to switch them out every year. And then flowering shrubs are even less work than perennials. So, and then trees are less work than flowering shrubs. So if you want to just look at it from the standpoint of what's going to be lower maintenance for a more sustainable garden over the long haul, you can use that. But other than that, I don't get into how to garden. And that was a conscious decision.
And you said the S word, another buzzword, sustainable.
Absolutely.
Huge thing right now to be thinking of. I love that you get into the square foot gardening. I think that's very efficient. Also a bit on containers. which not everyone here has a yard, or we work with school kids who are in Title I schools, and they may not have a white picket fence and a nice spot for a garden, but they can surely find a window box or a container or a recycled tub of some type and grow something. And that's our school program. We're trying to teach kids to be able to do that.
Nice. Yeah.
But growing food for us, I think is going to be a huge thing. I think it's a great opportunity to launch into something new this year.
Of course, yeah. Well, I also do a seminar on growing edibles in containers. And the thing that I like to do is to, like I don't put in, all my lettuces in one container. I'll put lettuces in there with some alyssum or with some, I don't know, petunias, because, like herbs, for example, you don't get a whole lot of color. And where we are, we have a very small garden. And when people don't really have a garden, maybe they've got a stairway, they can put out a few pots of, like I said, lettuces or salad greens are the easiest thing in the world to grow. But also, put in a little color in there as well, and it just makes it so much more visually enjoyable.
Yeah, and there's so many beautiful lettuces out there now. That troutback one is like a speckled, kind of burgundy speckles on it.
Yeah.
It's almost too pretty to eat. Look at Johnny's Seeds or Renee's Garden or somebody like that, and so many beautiful kinds. So.
Oh yeah, no, it's to me that's the fun of it, and and I combine, I tend to be very visual, so I've got gorgeous kale that is in this beautiful purple kale in with lettuces, with greens, with the speckles, so it's not just to grow food, but to make me smile. And to make our people that walk by smile. Yeah.
We do kale well here, so.
Oh, I bet.
we grow some in our school program, and research says that if kids grow their own food, they'll eat it or at least try it, which I have found to be true. I remember a kid in one school, though, we had him sample the kale. He said, "It tastes like leaves." Which of course it is.
Yeah.
So that was pretty funny. But that kind of segues into one of my rules: is grow what you like.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know. Well, the one thing that my husband's not real crazy about, as I go blank. Well, he's not crazy about kale, so I grow very little of it. But bright lights. Why am I zoning on this?
Chard.
Chard, thank you. He's not really crazy about chard.
Yeah.
But I grow it anyway because it's so beautiful in the garden.
It is beautiful. Yeah.
And, I just tend to eat more of it, and he doesn't care for it, but it's wonderful. I always have kale growing. Yeah.
We've grown it in the schools and braised it before with olive oil and a little bit of tahini or something, and the kids eat it. And, it seemed like some of the kids, maybe it's a familiar thing like a stir fry, but for many it was like a really brand new thing, but they did enjoy that. So, and that is a great plant. So chards are wonderful.
To me, when you're talking to school kids, there is nothing more wonderful than when they see that first carrot come out of the soil.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
I like to
joy.
Yeah, I like to kid them and say, "Do you know your food's growing in dirt?"
Yeah.
And some know and some don't. I pretend I don't know that. But
yeah. No, that's,
brush the dirt off and eat it.
Yeah. Patrick, I think more than anything else, when you're into gardening as you and I are, to me, that's our obligation, is to take what we know and pass it on. It's simple.
Pay it forward.
Yeah, pay it forward.
Yeah.
And these are really crazy times for all of us.
Yes.
But gardening is the best antidote to watching the news, to just living life these days. So get out there, do what you can now, and get ready for your summer planting.
Yeah, well, it's something you can control too, so
exactly.
That feels good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
forget about your kitchen table, push it up against the window and get a bunch of seed flats or recycled containers. Maybe you can't get to the garden shop, you know,
Yeah.
that's something too. So
Yeah, people can use, you know, if the plastic clam shells
got it.
that berries come in. Those make for great planters
Yep.
to get seeds started. I mean, there's lots of ideas out there.
Yeah.
There's lots of resources that people can refer to.
Yeah.
How they can be creative. That's what this time is all about. Because we've got the time, right?
Yeah.
We got the time to be creative.
Yes, we do. Well, I'm going to encourage people to go to tonigattone.com and check out some of your other materials, and I can help get out the handout from the lecture down in Seattle. Luckily, we were there before all this mess.
We left just in time.
We did, so that was good.
Yeah, yeah. And if, you know, I mean, the whole thing with if they are interested in ordering the book, you know, if they order it off my website, I'll autograph it. I'll make it out to their mother or their friends or anybody else. And post office is still open, so I can walk it over to the post office.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for doing that.
Happy to do that.
Toni, thank you for your time today. I'll go ahead and let you go and keep this. I mean, we could go on. This is fun.
Yeah,
but,
this is fun.
It's nice to see you. And I'm looking at that green tree out your window there, and that's a nice color. So
yeah.
I'm actually planting corn with my granddaughters today. So this has worked out that we get to hang out together while Mom works.
Sweet.
And Ava picked out corn. And so we're going to just plant it, you know, whatever. So
yeah, whatever.
It's all good.
That's the joy of gardening, is trial and error.
It is, definitely.
All right.
All right, Toni. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, this was really a lot of fun, and, you know, let's do it again sometime soon.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Take care.